I want to join in with those that are congratulating you on your accomplishment during this turbulent time. And I also want to take it a step further and share 3 life lessons that you may or may not have learned in school, but must be adhered to in life, because in life, what you don't know can hurt you. 1. A major determinant in your ultimate success in life is who you choose to listen to and the books you read. When I purchased my first car, I said to myself, it's my car, it's my money, I'm going to make the decision. I went to the car lot and bought a car that looked extremely good. Unfortunately, it wasn't a good car. I spent a lot of time and money getting that car fixed. And when I thought and reflected about it, I realized I know a lot of mechanics, and I have people in my family that have bought many cars. Had I listened to the right people, I could have saved time and money. You can gain the wisdom of decades and days by listening to the right people. Number 2, financial literacy is essential. The days of stressing over a GPA are over, but what that will be replaced with is a credit score. Your credit score will determine the interest rate that you pay on that house or that car. Handle your credit with care. I asked Dennis Kimbrough, who was a longtime professor at Atlanta Clark University, I said, talk to me about money. He asked, how do you keep score? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the poor, they keep financial score by cars and clothes. The middle class, they keep financial score by degrees and titles. But the wealthy, they keep financial score by bank statements. The question is, after you subtract your liabilities from your assets, what do you have remaining? Audiobooks, book summaries, podcasts, YouTube links. These are all ways that can give you tremendous insight from industry professionals into the career of your choice. I asked Dennis Kimbrough, long-term professor at Atlanta Clark University, to talk to me about money. Dr. Kimbrough said, well, how do you keep score? I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the poor, they keep score in cars and clothes. The middle class, they keep score by degrees and titles. Whereas the wealthy, they keep score by bank statements. When you subtract your liabilities from your assets, what do you have left? That number has to be important if you're ever going to become truly wealthy. It's important to monitor where your money is going. Is my money going toward assets, which actually make me more money, or is my money going toward liabilities that only cost money? And finally, I can no longer ignore the elephant in the room. Shannon Sharp was telling me about a Ben Franklin quote, and this is what he said. The societal wrongs experienced in our nation can only be made right when those that are not affected are as equally outraged as those that are affected. And that outrage must lead to action. When I saw the video of Mr. Floyd being killed in Minneapolis, it outraged me. And it reaffirmed the fact that, you know what? Black lives matter. Now, I typically don't speak in that vein because I don't want somebody to think that because I affirm that black lives matter, that I suggest that white lives or blue lives don't matter. But the reality is blue lives and white lives have never had to deal with the struggles that black lives had. And I guess I just wasn't paying attention when Michelle Alexander suggested there are a new set of Jim Crow laws. However, Amy Cooper, she solidified the fact that there is a new set of Jim Crow laws when she called the police. And when she called the police from Central Park, she said this: there is an African-American man threatening me and my dog. She was crying and lying, but she knew if she said those keywords, an African-American man threatening me, she knew the cops would come, which proves what Miss Alexander said, that African-Americans have been moved to a caste system that puts us in an inferior position. This outrage leads me to action. We are still dealing with Mr. Floyd in Minneapolis, Breonna Taylor in Louisville, and I'm still trying to get over Michael Dean from Temple, Texas. Will Smith said it like this: the racial problems are not getting worse, they're just now getting recorded. The bigger problem is the bad apples that wear the blue uniform. And I'll say this, everyone that wears a blue uniform is not an enemy. I have many close friends who wear that uniform with pride and dignity and ought to be appreciated and applauded. However, that does not mean we cannot and must not address the bad apples that do wear that blue uniform. The call to action today, class of 2020, is to get involved in local politics. Listen, we vote and we push people to vote for presidential elections, and that's important. We encourage people to vote in the state elections for the governors and state reps, and that is important. I'm telling you, to deal with police brutality in the minority community, it has to be a local issue, and it has to be made a local issue, and here's why. The chief law enforcement officer in the city is the police chief. The police chief is appointed by the city council and the mayor. So if you really want to fix local law enforcement, it has to start with the police chief, the mayor, and the city council. It is important that we call our police chiefs and ask them, what are we doing to ensure that what happened in Minnesota will not happen in my city? We have to ask our mayors and city council members, what are we doing to make sure there's sensitivity training? What are we doing to hold people accountable when they do make those mistakes? When someone is running for office, an agenda item has to be the relationships between law enforcement and the minority community. And if that candidate does not have a plan in place for race relationships between the minority population and law enforcement, if they don't have a plan, then they don't have my vote. Class of 2020, I want to encourage you to listen to the right people, to read the right books, to get educated financially, and to get involved in local politics. Class of 2020, I'm proud of you, and I beg you to rise up.